Good morning, everyone. So again, today we're going to continue with the point where we left yesterday. Yesterday we had discussed about the conditional statement, and we implemented one small project using a conditional statement. So let's review what we have done yesterday. Yesterday we created a form basically to capture the students obtained mark, and then on the basis of the obtained mark we were able to calculate the total marks obtained, and then we calculated the total obtained mark, and then we calculated the percentage and also evaluated the grade of the students. But the problem here is, let's say if we try to run this program, so what really happens is if a percentage, if a obtained mark is more than 100, this is acceptable. Okay, so this is going to be acceptable. For example, you could be having 101, you could be having 99, you could be having anything else. Okay, and if I press result, you will be getting still a valid mark. Another problem is, let's say for example, on the one hand this is more than 101, or let's say even if it is 100, and if it is 99, and even if it is 99, the one student has failed in one subject. Okay, and even if I press result, the grade is merit. So what I really wanted, this marks should not be more than 100, the first thing. And the next thing that I want is, I do not want the grade to be printed when a student fails in a particular subject. Alright everyone, so I do not want the student to be grade to be printed when the student fails in a particular subject, or the grade of the mark obtained mark of the student is more less than 45 in any of the subjects. So let's see how you can control this, everyone. So the first thing, we want to validate the mark should not be more than 100. So let's see how we can do that. Okay, so here we go. We are reading the marks here. Okay, we want to control if marks we don't want the user to allow marks which is more than 100. So let us validate this stuff first. I just can tell. Okay, if let's say we need to parse it to double dot parse txt or programming is greater than 100, or I'm using or sign now, this is basically or sign, or just a second everyone, there's a mistake here. There is a small mistake out here, so let me correct it first. If programming the text is greater than 100, or integer parse txt or network dot text greater than 100, or let's say integer parse txt opp dot text is greater than 100, and finally integer dot parse txt wd mark txt or wd mark dot text is greater than 100, is greater than 100. So that means if any of the marks is greater than 100, we need to display the error. So here I have a small mistake here. Let me correct this. So be here. So if it happens, if it is going to happen, then we need to make sure we need to display some message like the marks cannot be more than 100. Okay, so we want to have a special statement here. If it is so, then we can just display the message box. The mark of any subject cannot exceed 100. or you can just say the obtained mark cannot exceed 100. Okay, and if it is so, if this is the condition, and then under else condition, what we will do is just specify this everything out here. Now we can read all the marks here. This one we want to place under else condition. We can read all the marks, otherwise the marks won't be read. So this is one condition, everyone. So we have here somewhat error called total obtained by 4 is error. So let me see what is the error. Okay, so because I put it in the else statement, so that I'm getting the error. So let me put it everything here. Let me put it everything inside. Now if you run and check this one, now you will see none of the max which is more than 100 will be accepted here. For example, now if I put it 101 and if I put anything else, if I try to print result, you will see the mark cannot exceed more than 100. So it cannot be more than 100. So this could be 100, and if it print result, that's okay. But still you have some limitations out here. For example, if it is 8, that means it is less than 45, and still you are getting this grade called pass. So now we want to validate this stuff, like this should not be more than, or this should be more than 45 to make the student pass. So this will be more or equal to 45 in order to get a grade. So see how you can do this work now here. So now here again we need to check. Okay, so we need to check each and every mark, and now for this I'll be creating one variable. So now let us create one variable called bool. Okay. Value to create equals to, let's say, true. This is the boolean variable. And now let's say for any case, if a student marks is in any of the case, if any of the student mark is more than 45, then the grade will be true, otherwise this will be false. Now we can check one more condition. We can apply one more conditionals over here. Here I can apply more conditionals. Here I can apply one more conditionals, everyone. So I can check it again here now. If programming O mark is less than 45, or network O mark is less than 45, or network O mark is less than 45, or WPO mark is less than 45, or WDO mark is less than 45. So if any of the condition is true, if any of the condition is true, what we want to do is we do not want the student to pass. So what I will do in this case is now I will simply set something like this. I will simply set something like this. I will simply set valid grade equals to false. Valid grade equals to false. So if any of the subject, if any of the subject students get failed, the valid grade is by default false. Otherwise, this is true by default. Now I can check. Actually, I should calculate the percentage. That's fine for me. But in order to make print the grade, this condition has to be satisfied. Perfectly, this has to be satisfied. But at the same time, also you want to have one more conditions here to print distinction. So the other condition is I can use now AND operator. So both of these conditions must be satisfied. The valid grade should be equal to true. If it is only true, then only you can print distinction. Similarly, here also what I can do, I can print ampersand valid grade equals to double equals to true. If it is true, then only you will print merit. Here also I can apply AND operator, and I can just valid grade double equals to true. And lastly, this is going to be failed. That's fine for me. That is going to be fine for me. Absolutely fine for me. Okay. If it is true, if the valid grade equals to true, that means the student has gotten all the 45 marks in every subject. Then the student gets the grade. Otherwise, the student gets fair mark. So let's see how it works. So let us say this is now 8, and then we have 88, 88, 88, and let's see the result. You see, you got the percentage, but since you have a 8 only in one of the subject, you could not print the grade out here, although you were able to get the percentage. So there are different ways that you can apply your logic. There are different ways that you can do, but this is what I came in my mind right now, and this is how it works here at the same time. So everyone, how you try this out, everybody, and then let me know if you have any confusion or doubt in the comment section. You can message me for the same, so you can try this now for you. Try this now. So let us see what you have done here. So first of all, we checked that if any of the marks is not more than 100. So in order to do that, we had to do it before we read the marks. Otherwise, after reading the marks, if we do it, then that makes no sense. Before the marks is read, we are just reading that the marks is more than 800 or not. So if it is more than 100, so we are not going to proceed further. If it is not more than 100, then we are going to read all those marks here right now. And once we have read all the marks, we also need to check if each obtained mark in each of the subject is less than 45 or more than 45. If any of the marks is more than 45, that means we created a variable called valid grade equals to true, and now we made it false. That means a student has not passed in one of the subject. If a student fails in any of the subject, then the valid grade will be false. But at the same time, we calculated a percentage, and we are assigning the percentage inside a label called percentage. And by default, the grade is NA, not available. And now we are checking now if percentage is more than 80. The students will get a distinction, but at the same time we have to check whether the student has passed in every subject or not. For that, we check if valid grade equals to true. That means the student has passed all the subjects. So if both of these conditions are satisfied, then only the students will be getting the distinction grade. Similarly, for merit grade, the student marks percentage must be more or equal to 60, and at the same time the valid grade has percentage should be less than 80, and plus the valid grade has to be true in order to get the merit. Similarly for your, let's say, more than or equal to 45 and less than 60, the valid grade has to be true, and then only you get pass mark. So this is how it works, everyone. Okay. Now I want you to write one more dynamic program here. I just want you to write one more dynamic program. Let's say here I have defined the subject myself. Here I have defined the subject myself. Now what I really want to do is I want to dynamically, you want the user to input the subject name. Full mark will remain the 100, pass mark will remain the 45, and the obtained mark again he has to input by himself. And at the same time, I just want to print the percentage and the grade using the same logic. So there are few parts that I will do it on my own, and then there are few parts that you will be doing as a part of your assessment or assignment work, as a homework, whatever you say. Okay, so let us get on started with a new project here. So find new project, and let us get started with the console app, not the console app, but Windows Home app. And I'm going saving it somewhere in section C folder. Okay, and let me create let's say result processing app. Okay, perfect. So we have this Windows form now. I'm just going to name it result processing system. Start position is a center screen. Font is 12 by default. 12 by default. Okay, and there are new things that I'll be teaching you here. New control called data grid view, where we'll be populating all the data. Let me make it somewhat bigger so this looks more better. So this time I'm going to take one label so that I can display the thing more appropriately. So I'm going to take a label here, go to the property, and then I'm going to change the text. Okay, ISMT result processing system, whatever the name you want to buy. So let us say this one, and let me increase the font for this one. So let me increase this font to at least 20. Okay, this looks bigger, perfect for me. Okay, so I will be changing the font and everything for this. So let me take one, nothing but let me just take a label here, and I want to have a text box around. Let us take a text box here. This one I want to have a student name. So there is nothing to do with the student name right now, but let us keep a habit of doing this. And similarly, let's have a roll number. let's make this a roll number, and then let me have a text box for a roll number as well. This is somewhat smaller. Perfectly done. Now I just want to have another text box, so let me copy this, and now let me just make it a subject name instead of student name. Let me make it subject name. Fine for me. And instead of this roll number, I want to have this as the obtained mark. Obtained mark. That's it. It looks very big. So let's do one thing here. Let us make it smaller. And this looks better now. This looks very perfect. Very good. Now what I want to do in this case is I just want to have a button here. Two buttons in fact. And today let me just I just want to name this add to mark sheet, and this one calculate percentage and grade. Okay, let's make it somewhat bigger, so this is perfect. So, okay, now the thing that I'll be doing is more amazing. I'll be taking only more control here, so I'll be taking a data grid view. So let me go to my data control, or you can just go to the search toolbox and you can search. So this time I'm going to take a new control for everyone. I'm going to take a data grid view. So let me drag and drop a data grid view right here. And the first thing that I will do is I will just uncheck this enable editing, and enable deleting. I do not want the user to enable add, edit or delete here. I just want to uncheck them. And then now I just want to make it larger. This must be, and this must be big. So there are a few things that will be working on around with the data grid, which I'll be teaching right now. So okay, so we are done with the design, everyone. We are done with the design. Now what we are left with is to name all the controls. So let me name all the controls now. Let me name this to student name, txt student name. There must be no space between the student and the name, everyone. So make sure that you put no space in between. So txt roll number, and then txt subject name. This is what I want today. Txt subject name and txt obtained btn into marks it, and btn calculate percentage and grade. Now the next thing that I want to do is to display the percentage and the grade. So let me take another label. I need 4 labels here. This one for percentage, and this one for 0 for right now, for there is no percentage right now. And again I just want to have one more. There you go. Okay, this is for grade, and this is NA, not available for right now. Let me make this font somewhat larger. $60. That's okay. So we have named all the controls now, everyone. So now I need to change some property of this data grid. So let me right click, go to property, and then the few things that I'll change is a BGB, and I'll make it mark sheet. And then alternating row default list, and you can put some color here. I can put any color I like, and then auto size columns mode, you have to make sure that this is filled. This has to be filled. And now selection mode has to be full row select. And now I want to add some rows here. I just want to add some rows here. For example, I just want to have a student name. I want to have a student name. Sorry, not a student. I want to have a subject name. pass mark, obtain mark, full mark, pass mark, obtain mark. Okay, and then once I click onto that 2 marks, the marks will be added on here automatically. So let's proceed further, everyone. Let's proceed further. So let's see how you can do this work. So you can click on the icon one, click on edit columns and click on add, and here this is something like a name, so I'm just going to put serial number first. So this is the name, so this has to be same at the one you declare the variable, and this is the header tag that we want to display onto this header. So I'm going to make the s.no serial number, and I'm going to make it now subject name sub sen, it's a subject name, and this one I'm going to make it subject space name. Make sure this variable does not repeat anywhere. This should not repeat anywhere, otherwise you'll be getting error. Click on add, and I want to have more. Let's say up full mark. So I'm just going to make it F, and I'm going to make it full mark. Click on add, and I'm going to make it P, and I'm going to make it pass mark. You can make it. You can add anything you want, but make sure this variable should not be repeated anywhere in the part of the program as well. And that's O, and I'm going to make it option mark. Option mark. Click on add. Click on close and click on OK, and you can see now you have a header. You have an appropriate header. Serial number, subject name, full mark, pass mark, and obtain mark. Absolutely fine. Now the next thing that I want to do is just I want to supply whenever I press the subject name and obtain mark here, this should be populated onto your data grid view. So let's do that. So now how to do that first? Now let's say now I just want to read the I just want to read obtained and a double dot parse txt obtained mark of text. So this is what I want right now. And now let us try to know how to populate the value onto the grid view now. Let's see how to do this work. So I just can tell dgv, let's say also you need a subject name. So subject name could be assigned directly by using a text box, so I need to do that. So let us do that now. Let's say string subject name equals to now txt subject name dot text. Now I can do digital marks dot rows dot add. Rows dot add, and I can make counter. So just count equals to 0 first. Now let me create a global variable for count. So let me make a count equals to 0, and every time a button is clicked, the counter has to be increased by 1. So this is counter plus plus. So the counter will be increased by 1 every time a new counter is created. Let me make it integer. Let us say this is a serial number which we have to play. Let me make it sn, more better, and sn plus plus. The first value is the sn. The second value is the full mark, which is 100. Third value is the pass mark, which is 45, and the fourth value is obtain mark, which is coming from obtain. And obviously, I forgot you one thing. This should be now subject name, because we have subject serial number, subject name, full mark, pass mark, and obtain mark. So if you look into your design part, you will see serial number, subject name, full mark, pass mark, and obtain mark. If you do this, so this is going to add whatever you have input the value inside. So let us now run this and see what actually happens. So student name, let's say Ram, roll number 100, 1001, it's fine. Subject name, let's say programming, and obtain mark, let's say 100. Active mark, and you see you got the marks. Similarly, I could have a network 976, 76, and active marks. Similarly, since you're getting this all marks here being added, so what I want you to do is right now, I want you to complete this program. Complete this program, making all the necessary validations and calculating percentage and the grade. So I want you to repeat all this work, everyone. And I will catch you in the next video. If you are able to do it, it's fine. You can submit me the screenshot. Otherwise, I will be catching you up in the next video. So good day, everyone.